78% of leaders identify themselves as being self-aware. Yet we know through research and further investigation that often 2/3 of those have very little self-awareness. Now this is really interesting because self-awareness is the core basis of authentic leadership. We must be self-aware first, because if we're not self-aware, then we're not aware of how we're coming across to other people, we're not aware of what their responses are, we're not able to then self-regulate, which is the second important thing in authentic leadership. And self-regulation is that ability to dial up and dial down who we are being in that moment. So, self-awareness. Let's look at the signs that may indicate that you're not being as self-aware as you think you are. The first one is that you talk more than you listen. This often happens in many areas and many workplaces. Do you talk more than you listen? Particularly if you're leading a team. Are you talking more? Are you always having the last word? Are you explaining everything? Are you talking around it? Are you keeping on reiterating things? Are you leading people in different ways that you keep talking and talking and talking and sharing stories and identities, identification of information? Are you constantly talking more than you're listening? The amazing thing that we always have is we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. And our suggestion is even to go more than just listen as twice as much as you speak. We love the 80-20 rule. When you're inspiring people, when you are listening and organizing, when you are discussing change, when you are inspiring your team to look at a specific direction, recognize that 20% of talking, 80% of discussion and input. What would it take to get more input so that you can listen more? So that's the first sign that you're not necessarily as self-aware as you might think. Another sign is that you always must have the last word in a meeting. If you think that you need to have the last word in a meeting as a leader, then often your self-awareness is quite low. Why do you need to have the last word in a meeting? Unless there's a specific format and you're wanting to create a certain way forward and you're reiterating in a specific manner, you don't always need to have the last word in an interaction or a meeting. Sometimes you may, sometimes you may not. That's about self-awareness and self-regulation, dialing up and dialing down. Another sign that you can identify that your self-awareness may be a little bit lower is that you use sarcasm or a form of wit that actually makes people feel a little uneasy. We say many a true word is said in jest, and often within that comment meant to be funny, whatever that might mean, it often is undermining the other people in your team. It often is laying something out there, and it's not about that person. What it comes back to is it shows that you are feeling insecure in that moment, that your awareness of self has actually plummeted a little. So beware of that. Another way that you can recognize a sign that your self-awareness may be a little bit lower than it could be is that you get really defensive when someone gives you feedback. Your heckles rise and you go, well, that's not true. I'm not doing that. That's not on. Why is that happening? So within those signs that your self-awareness may be a little bit lower, we also have 3 strategies to build your self-awareness. And remember, whenever we look at ourselves as an authentic leader, whenever we investigate what's happening for ourselves, because we start with leadership and leading ourselves first, we recognize that we do it without any blame or shame or guilt or judgment. When we reflect on who we are being, then we can bring some change in place. Awareness can bring change if we choose it. So 3 strategies that we can put in place to boost and grow and develop your self-awareness even more. The first one, collect feedback. Now, collecting feedback can be scary. Absolutely. You don't know what the other person's going to say. You don't know if you're going to like it. You don't know if you're going to agree with it. You don't know how harsh they're going to be. You don't know how light they're going to be. You don't know how truthful they're going to be. And we get to ask and collect feedback. Within that, we can then test it out, try it on like a jacket. Which bits are we liking? Which bits might be a little bit prickly to start with, but it's like, they've got something in that. And I get to choose to adapt. I get to choose to shift a little bit, to talk less, to not have the last word in every interaction, to use less sarcasm or humour that actually makes people feel a little bit uncomfortable in the room. I get to choose to not be defensive because I'm collecting feedback. Now, of course, you don't just do this with people that you don't necessarily have a good rapport with or a good trust with. You get to choose who you ask for feedback. The second thing is to check in daily. To grow your self-awareness, you actually need to commit to checking in with yourself daily on a regular basis. Now, you can do this by popping something into your phone and having a regular check-in time. You can do it at a certain time of day where you pop it in your diary, 15 minutes, check in. You get to choose. If you are committed to growing your self-awareness, then it takes some commitment and a little bit of work. And within that check-in, you can ask yourself questions like, what was a little bit prickly today? Who was I showing up as today? What conversations were a surprise to me? What emotions were being triggered along the way for myself that I was a little bit, I didn't know that was there. Explore what was happening. And within that 5 or 10 or 15 minutes that you put aside during the day, every single day, you get to explore what your reactions are. What was happening? Without blame, without shame, without guilt, without judgment, you get to explore it. Because then you can recognize where things are at and you can dial things up, dial things down, and build your self-awareness in a different way. Now, the third strategy for building your self-awareness is to pause. Pause before responding. Pause before responding with a conversation. Pause before responding with an email. Pause before responding and having that reaction. Pause. Check in. And go, I want to go at this person because they didn't do something that I thought they would do, or they're not meeting my expectations or my standards, or whatever it is. Just pause. Pause first and come inside. Come inside to you. Come inside to what am I thinking? What am I feeling? And then choose your response. So 3 strategies to build your self-awareness: collect feedback and listen. Without defensiveness, listen with openness and curiosity. The second one, check in daily. Put a time in your calendar. Put a reminder on your phone. Check in to recognize and explore, where am I at the moment? What's happening? What am I thinking? What am I feeling? And the third thing, pause before responding. Just for those few seconds. Okay, this is how I'm going to respond. Because then you get to choose. You get to choose to self-regulate up, dial it down. You get to choose your response without that reaction, without that lack of self-awareness. You get to choose to grow and develop your self-awareness and become a more empowered, authentic leader. This topic is so important. We've dedicated a whole chapter on it in our book, the Authentic Leadership Playbook. Self-awareness is where it starts. Who am I being? Who am I showing up as? What am I thinking? What am I feeling? And then we get to choose the doing to have the impact and the influence that we desire.